Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Josh.
And I love it when you call me Big Papa. Theoretically. Nobody's ever done it before, but I think I would generally be a fan.
You would like it?
Were it ever to occur.
This is our weekly comic book review for March 30th. Cold water?
Is that old water?
Yeah.
From last week?
Yeah.
Well, Sunday, I guess.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Okay.
All right, fantastic. This week we have a pretty short week, actually. Just a couple of titles to talk about. First of all, we have our usual Daredevil. This is up to number 5 now. Been reading it for a while. And then we picked up a new title this week. Suiciders, Kings of Hell.a. This is number 1 issue. And then we also... we have a bonus thing. I'll just leave it down here.
Oh, is it a mystery?
It's a mystery.
At this point?
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's a special bonus comic at the end. So let's start off talking Daredevil number 5. This is Soul, Garney, and Milla. I don't know. Milla. I don't know why people insist on having hard to read names.
So, Daredevil fights a fist. I'm not like a fist, but there's a being known as a fist.
It's part of the hand. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Blindside fights
Blind spot.
Blindside fights his mother.
Overall, what'd you think of this? Let's just start with the overall impression, and we'll go down into it.
Yeah. This is, I guess, well, it's wrapping up this arc. It did a good job of doing it. It wasn't particularly... It's probably the weakest out of the 5, but it kind of had to be.
Yeah. I kind of liked this more than most of the others.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just a big fight scene, dude. I mean, really?
Kind of. I mean, it's not really... I think they've all been pretty simple, honestly. But I just liked all of the little things in this one. I thought it catapulted it up a little bit better than the others.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was noticeably more nuanced than your general big fight scene issue, which
right.
I was very appreciative of. So in that light, I guess being seen as head and shoulders above of something that we see fucking constantly does give it like its own set of credentials. But again, I wish there was a little bit more dialogue.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, I love the way this comic looks. I think it looks really cool. And I like the feel that Soul gives this stuff and the way his characters feel, especially Daredevil and Blindspot.
Side.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't feel like this particular storyline ever really came together and had much impact on me. Aside from Blindspot, I like Blindspot. I think he's a pretty cool character, and he's done a good job with him, making me like that character and want to see more of it, as compared to like everything else in here, like the villain and the stuff with the hand.
Yeah.
I could care less if we get any more of that, but I like Blindspot.
Yeah, I mean, being the first arc with this new creative team, it was probably just a vehicle to set him up. I mean, they wanted to have an immigrant character, and he was Asian, so it makes sense, like, to bring the hand back in, and then you have to, like, give them a villain. So, okay, well, 10 fingers, and then, you know, you have the triangle of people trying to kick each other's asses and stuff. But, yeah, I like him, and I like that he's sticking around. This is going to become, like, I assume somewhat of, like, a Batman and Robin type comic.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. And I think this could also... If this character continues to be as compelling as the general concept of him has been so far, I can see him getting more stuff going on. Maybe give this character his own solo series, you know, and let Soul do that. I think Soul writes Blindspot better than he writes Daredevil. So there were some clever things in here that I liked a lot. Some things that were really silly that made me laugh. Like we both laughed at the gun with the 9 triggers.
Yeah.
There was 2 of them. There was one for each finger on a single barrel, which was
1 barrel and 10 triggers. It was amazing.
It really just felt like a funny, like, artist joke. Mm-hmm. Like he just draw some guns and, well, he's got a lot of fingers, so I give him like a lot of triggers, you know. Just kind of a throwaway joke, and I like that they.
Yeah. He's a pretty sensitive guy with all those triggers.
Well, yeah. He's probably on Tumblr a lot.
Yeah, he's been triggered 20 times.
But I like that they'll throw that in here. And I think we've had little things like that throughout where it's just a little more lighthearted in places than you might expect. You know, a lot of fun little things like that. And there were a couple of ideas that I thought were really cool, like the bit with Daredevil the Temple, where Blind Spot tweeted out to have everybody say this phrase.
Just say it out loud.
Just everybody please say this to get him the message, because he's Daredevil. He can
fucking hear it. You heard it like 100 times.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really clever. And the thing with his mom and just most of the stuff with him I thought was really good. So that's why I enjoyed the issue, really. It had nothing to do with Daredevil. It had nothing to do with the goofy villain or the hand or the fist or any of that crap. Mm-hmm. I just like the setup for Blind Spot here.
I do like him getting like totally shit on as a lawyer. I mean, it's also almost like a throwback to like old school Daredevil, where he, you know, his law firm wasn't really known or anything, you know, so he was just getting shit on constantly. And this is like a new way to get him shit on now that he's like known as this pretty badass fucking lawyer, you know?
Right. So now we kind of fish out of water with him again.
Yeah.
I would say that it's just more average Daredevil. It's not blowing me away, but I like where it could be going with the new character that we have here, and that's what's really keeping me interested.
And the artwork.
Yeah, the artwork is cool. There's a little bit of neat paneling, but I think most of what makes it cool is the coloring and just the way...
The textures are what really caught me on this. It goes from like crosshatchy to sort of like pop art, like, you know, pixelated Andy Warhol kind of style. Mm-hmm. The coloring really like aids to that. But I think it was like an interesting juxtaposition of styles that came together more cleanly than I think one may expect it to.
One of the better drawn Marvel books, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on then to Suiciders, Kings of Hell.a #1. This is Bermeo, Vitti, Hollingsworth, and Boyd.
This is just straight up like backstory, exposition, and stuff. I mean, I think there's obviously things in here that are going to develop, but...
Yeah. So, I mean, the basic setup here, it feels to me like a cross between maybe The Warriors and like Escape from L.A.
Yeah.
You know, it's trying to get that sort of vibe, but maybe a little grittier and just kind of nastier, really. It's pretty
graphic,
grotesque, and maybe not grotesque, but yeah, graphic's probably a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. So the Kings of Hell.a are like this gang that has a territory, I guess, where this is taking place. And all of them are like second generation after this big earthquake happened that totally fucked up society. So they're like these new, like they don't really have memories of like the world before it turned to shit.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and really we're just getting the setup for like a brother and sister. The brother kind of runs the gang, and the sister's the tag along, really. Mm-hmm. And it's really just telling us a lot about these characters, who they are, and what motivates them. Can I say the name is really bad? The name really turns me off. Kings of Hell.a, just...
Yeah.
I don't know, something about Hell.a. I've heard that too many times in too many different things, and I always think it seems silly. Isn't it straight out of Escape from L.A.? Didn't Escape from L.A. have Welcome to Hell.a?
Probably.
Like somebody had written Hell on the sign. I could swear that that's a thing. Maybe it's a different movie, but...
Yeah, either way, it's a pretty on-the-nose reference. I don't know that I would draw that comparison myself, knowing that everybody else is probably going to fucking do it. So, interesting choice.
Yeah, but aside from that, how did you feel about it? Let's talk about first about the writing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I liked it. It's It's got that almost kind of Brubaker style of heavy narration, and the narration always being like 90 times as eloquent as the dialogue, which I thought was really cool. Like, all the characters are really just brash, and I mean, they're exactly who you'd expect them to be, but then when the narration comes in, it's like just so insightful and paints you this mental picture, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's an interesting mixture. The story itself, like the little plot we get here, again, it's not much happens. Really, the point here is just to give us some simple day-to-day what life is like for these two people, so we can see who they are a little bit. So in that respect, maybe not the most gripping beginning to a series, but the writing really keeps me interested in it, and the art is really cool.
One last thing about the writing: the beginning of it is the most narration heavy, and like by the time I got through that, I was like already sold on it. So realistically, like anything else could have happened, and I'd still be pretty stoked about the book.
Yeah, agreed.
So, but yeah, artwork, very cool. I was kind of unsure about the series as a whole because, I mean, the cover art's cool. It maybe like just feels a little bit too digital. I don't know if it's just the difference in paper or whatever, but it looks like it's just too polished. But the artwork inside is not the case.
Right.
I mean, it's just as detailed, I would say, but it doesn't have that finish on it. Like,
the
it feels
sheen.
more natural. Yeah,
I agree. And I do think maybe they could chill with the yellow tones in it, like that. Just everything is yellow and orange, which is a little weird. But I mean, that's Hollingsworth, so I wouldn't be surprised if next issue we have like a completely different color palette, because he's just kind of like that.
Yeah.
He likes to play with color quite a bit. He's one of those colorists that really tries to set tone with his coloring. Like, everything we've read of his has been that way, where it's very...
Yeah, he's super into being a colorist, which is rad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and the art itself is, like, the way it's laid out is really clever. We get these interesting juxtapositions, especially near the end, where we see moments from his past, like superimposed over like current moments, and we see that he's never really escaped his youth. Like, he's still
that same kid,
the same kid that he was, 10 years ago, but done completely from the art. It's not anything on the writing side that's doing it. It's the artwork and the paneling that's showing us some really important narrative stuff that we need to know, which
really
is
even
really cool.
That same narrative at the beginning, like, there was no like additional narrative. It was just, it's all in the artwork, which is rad. A lot of these panels too are like super detailed, which is awesome. Like, the pencil work on it, like, you can tell he actually gave a shit. Like, he spent a lot of time like just getting everything like
right. There's a lot of what would you call that? Like,
line work,
I suppose. But I mean, there's just lots of little things inhabiting the world.
Yeah, there's so much
in
to
a
look
pawn
at.
shop. The whole pawn shop is actually full of things. It's not just blank shelves,
and it's not like oblong guitars and shit either. It's like things actually look like they're
right.
They look
right. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely not phoned in, so that's always good.
Yeah, very cool. I'm excited for the next one. I wish we already had it. I would read it right now.
Yeah,
right now.
I would too. Yeah, this is pretty promising. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get to that trade on the first one soon.
Yeah, we definitely will now. Now that we've got a little taste of it, we'll come back and get the first trade.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I say we move on to
surprise time.
Bonus comic.
Surprise time.
Should we set this up by explaining what we have going on here? That's what we will do.
Plot-wise? Or how it came into...
Here, as in locally.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, so we have the Marvel Universe Live show for kids coming, right? It's like modern ice capades kind of thing. I don't think there's ice, but it's like that kind of thing, I think. So for free, in our poll, we got Marvel Universe Live Prelude by Frank Thierry and a couple of shitty artists, Miguel Sepulveda and J. David Ramos. So we said, what the fuck, let's read it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So It's maybe what is this? Maybe an 8-page comic? 9?
Yeah, if you take out the ads, probably like 8 pages. Yeah.
Right. And I guess it's the setup for this live show that's coming. And that's where things get weird. So first, what do you have like a quick synopsis of what happens here?
Okay. So there's this, what is it called? Like the Cube of Ultimate Power or some shit?
It's the Cosmic Cube.
Cosmic Cube, yeah. So they get it, and then Iron Man's doing some experiments on it, and then Loki steals it. And then they best Loki, and they're taking him back to Avenger Jail or whatever. And then they realize that he has deceived them, and it is actually Hawkeye who they have imprisoned. And so they have to go find the Cosmic Cube and Loki.
Right, which is then the setup for
the live show.
So, right off the bat, the weird fucking thing here is this reads to me straight up like a Jeff Johns Justice League.
Yes!
Right? I mean,
yeah, it's like spark notes on comic book form or like fight scene form.
Right.
Like there's the big thing happens, like it seems like a fair match at first, and then like the good guy kind of seems like he gets the upper hand for a little bit, and then like it goes like completely back the other direction, and you're sure that like shit's fucked, and then it goes back the other direction, and you get the resolution, but then there's like the little bit of tension at the end that's like, oh, but things might change again.
Right, and it's got the whole thing with let's make sure each character gets his one line that is in character for that guy. Like Hawkeye says the funny thing that's smarmy, and Iron Man says the thing about how, oh, I'm smart and I can do what I want.
Yeah, I'm a billionaire, and
And Spider-Man
awesome.
makes a joke, and Hulk, or Thor says, I don't think we should do this. Therefore, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really does to me. It reads exactly like a Jeff Johns Justice League issue or like a shitty like Avengers issue. But why? I mean, I could stop there. Just why, right? But why isn't this thing the Marvel Universe Live for like little kids, right?
Sure.
Like 5 to 9, probably 5 to 12, maybe. So it's like the young demographic. But this reads like something that like a dumb 18-year-old reads. You know what I mean? Like it.
You don't think it's dumbed down enough?
Right. It's not. I don't think it's dumbed down nearly enough. I mean, let me give you an example here. This is not the kind of thing that we normally do, but turns out your Electrolink remote power source may not be much of a Cube fan either. I'd say we're either maxing that baby out or the link function isn't properly regulating the additional power surge, right?
Yeah, but that's just supposed to pass as like generic science talk.
That's true, but I mean, a kid, these are words that kids are going to have trouble even reading if they're 6. You know what I mean?
So flashback to the Bloodshot Annual, the second story when they were talking about, oh, this is the fucking transdefibrillator, fucking whatever, and like
that's the joke, right?
Yeah, you just skip past that part. You're like, okay, it's the fucking sciencey thing,
right? It's the science magic.
That's
right,
what's
but I mean,
here.
but it's like that the whole way through. Like it's written at like a middle school level of writing, but for children,
for elementary school kids,
it's just I'm perplexed as to who they think they're writing this for. And I mean, anybody that has any sort of literary interest at all, this is garbage.
Yeah,
but I mean, it just blows my mind like how this gets out there, what demographic they think that they're trying to reach with this.
I will say they did a good job of like introducing the shit out of the characters. Like, not only do we get their names, like in the panel where they first appear, but then we get things like, oh, please, you worry too much for a big Viking guy with a giant hammer that shoots lightning.
Right.
Like, that's everything you need to know about Thor, just in that little,
Right. Yeah, and that's where that's kind of the whole Jeff Johnsian comparison. That's exactly how he will introduce a character is someone will just speak out loud exactly who he is and like what sort of things he does. Like
oh, you can live underwater and you're really strong when you get wet and you can talk to the fish. Yeah. It's that guy.
Good to meet you, Aquaman, guy who is underwater and talks to fish and has a lot of strength, right? Like, I've heard much about you. Are you really as strong as people say and can talk to fish as people say?
Well, let me show you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do agree. Like, it kind of sets everybody up, but it's just bizarre. It's so on the nose, yet superfluous. It's one of the weirder things I've read in a while. But frankly, it's not any worse than, like, Justice League. Honestly, or like Flash Rebirth or any of the stuff that comes from him, or like Didio or any of the other sort of chumpy writers that. But man, how weird! It just when I was reading it, I couldn't figure out what the point was or like who.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I was little and I had one of my parents read this to me, which would probably be the case.
That's true.
I think I would have got like the main gist of it.
I think you're probably right, actually. Maybe that is the idea here. Because it is they're putting it in adults' pull lists, right, at the comic shops. Maybe the idea is...
7-year-old doesn't have a pull list.
Right. Maybe the idea is to get it to a parent who will then take it home and read it to their kid and then take their kid to the thing, right? And they're trying to entertain both, but it just seems to me like they're going to fail at both ends of that.
Yeah.
Like they end up, nobody is entertained.
I mean, Thierry had to do what he had to do. Like,
right.
You know, this probably like destroyed him on the inside anyway. So,
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Just odd though. Sometimes these things, they just perplex me, man. This is what happens, I guess, when a corporation like designs a comic book by committee. Is what it feels like, you know. Like, here's all the characters that need to be in it. Here's all the things that they need to make sure to say. Here's the setup that needs to occur. I end up feeling the same way usually about like the big event titles.
Yeah.
You know, they feel kind of similar to this, where it seems like all the beats were like decided in a boardroom. You know, it's like a microcosm of like shitty events.
This is Flashpoint.
Yeah, it is. It's about that quality too. So, just interesting. If you get a chance to read it, don't. I mean, maybe it's kind of funny that it's such a microcosm of all that's wrong with like the biggest corporate comics out there.
Yeah, I will say that you could probably take this and dissect it and write just a textbook on basic comic book form, though. So there's something to be said for it. It's very succinct.
It is true. Like, it does pack, like, what a lot of guys would turn into, like, a 3-issue arc into, like, 9 pages.
Yeah.
It just cuts out all character development, all, like, interpersonal dialogue.
Yeah.
Any
drama.
Any sort of drama, and it's just like, here's all the beats that are supposed to occur in a story.
Yeah.
That's true. It is kind of interesting in that way, isn't it?
It could probably be a silent comic. Like, if there were no words,
I think you're right.
You just flip through the pages.
I think you're right. It would probably be just as effective that way.
Yeah.
Maybe it might need a couple of, like, the little, you know, where, like, a guy has, like, exclamation points over his head. Yeah, and then somebody else has like a question mark and, you know, and then like a crazy happy face, you know, like, I think that's all you would need to get the same thing out of this.
Yeah. But hey, this is being hailed as the most technically advanced live show ever. The Marvel Universe.
Ever. The most technically advanced live show ever.
Yeah, they're going to have motorcycles and fucking parkour and stuff, I guess.
Great.
With skateboards.
Yeah.
Kicking another chick in the vagina.
That's so extreme. They got skateboards and motorcycles.
I know.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh my god.
I wonder if they'll drink Mountain Dew.
Probably.
I bet.
Look at that vagina kick, though.
That is a pretty on point vagina kick.
Yeah, she's selling it like a champ, too. Perfect.
All right, can we finish?
Sure.
All right. That's going to do it for us this week on Comic Talk. You can check back with us next Monday when we're going to talk about the DC Rebirth, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of look through those titles a little bit, talk about... I think the bigger picture of it, we're going to get into that a little bit. We have a like what's the matter with DC thing that we did a while ago. I'll stick it up there. And I think we're going to revisit some of that now with this new Rebirth thing. And
you kind of have to.
And talk about where we think they are maybe addressing some of those things, or if we think they're failing miserably addressing the things we were talking about. And then we'll also talk about some of the specific titles, maybe what we're thinking about it, what we're considering reading, what we don't want to read.
Yeah.
And just start, you know how this goes, right?
Yeah.
And then next Monday after that, I think we're going to do Nameless, right? Grant Morrison's complete weird
space
mindfuck space
odyssey.
It's kind of space, sort of like interior mind. It's it goes all over the place. It's fucking weird. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Always fun to talk about Grant Morrison shit on here. Every Wednesday we do this, usually with more titles than this. Last couple of weeks have been pretty short. Maybe we should take another look at our pull list and
see what's actually coming out when, because a bunch of the titles are just like taking breaks or ended or something.
Right.
So, and we dropped Batman. I think this would have been a Batman week otherwise.
Yeah,
I think
probably right. It might have been last week. I don't know. Probably this week.
Okay.
So we do that every Wednesday, and also sometime coming up here on a Monday in the next few weeks, we got to squeeze in our monthly review of everything from March.
Yeah, we do.
That might come a couple weeks from now, maybe a couple weeks into April before we get to that. We'll just have to wait and see.
And then 7 weeks we can squeeze in the bargain bin, and we've been promising for like 7 months now.
Right. Some bargain bin stuff where we go back and talk about
cheap shit.
Cheap, good stuff. First run things that you can get for a good deal. So do Facebook and Twitter, but before you do that, because that'll take you somewhere else, like us or this video.
Subscribe.
You can like us personally too.
Yes. Enjoy us as people.
Yeah. It doesn't require any sort of
action.
Interaction on the screen. You can. It's more of an internal thing that you do yourself.
Just feel it.
Yeah, in your heart, right here.